One. We are live. Look at this. Alexis isn't here. We've upgraded. I even changed the little name panel under him. I mean, the amount of effort and work that goes into this production is really incredible. I really have to pat myself on the back today.
I think you should. I think you absolutely should. I do like that with Alexis not here, you just get to do all the things you want to do, including, I'm assuming, talking to somebody who isn't going to scream at you about pizza for like an hour and a half.
Correct. What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Cooligans live right here on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. We already got a bunch of people in the chat hanging out. Paulo Nelson just said, Taylor is way overdressed for this.
I could put the blazer on and really make it like the full look. I thought, is that not what I thought this was Men in Blazers.
That's usually what we do. We have a nice little patch on our blazer. It's we thought it was our thing. I didn't even realize it was already guys doing that.
Man, I gotta say, I'm really excited for your wedding for so many reasons. Also slightly terrified because I feel like I'm gonna be judged on how I dance, and how I dance is poorly. But I am really excited to see Alexis Guerrero's in a suit. I'm wondering if he's going to find a way to wear like a suit tracksuit combination. I don't know if you're going to have dress requirements, but
the word suit is already in tracksuit, so I guess it's somewhat formal, right?
There you go. That's it.
What's good, everybody? So thank you for joining us. We are here. Yes, I have my guest co-host Taylor Rockwell of Total Soccer Show joining us. Alexis was here yesterday. He is currently in London. It's the beginning of his I guess vacation. It's both of our birthdays this weekend coming up. Yeah. So he is in London. Then he's also going to Paris to meet up with his wife, who is meeting him in Paris, and they're going to have a vacation together.
Christian, all of this sounds like lies. All of it sounds like you're making it up. Like he's in London, and they're going to Paris. Like, I don't know what's actually happening, but I have questions.
He has a wife. She's in Canada, I swear.
She goes to another school. You wouldn't know her.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So today and next week, we will have a guest co-host while Alexis is, just not taking this job seriously, okay? And we'll make the most of it. So thank you, Taylor Rockwell, for joining me today on the show. How you feeling, man?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. I'm sorry I jumped in before you introduced me like 5 different times, but that felt like the right vibe.
Do not apologize. There's no decorum here. There's nothing. There are no rules. All right. Pepes the Don just said, "Does Taylor like bananas on pizza?" I don't even know where this is coming from, but I guess we have to address it.
I do not. I'm not crazy about anchovies. That's the thing my wife has been into of late. Have you done anchovies on pizza, Chris?
What look like a Ninja Turtle? Get out of here. I'm not doing it.
Was that their go-to? That was
anchovies. That was their thing, which is still, as a child, it really made no sense. Just because I didn't even know anchovies were like readily available anywhere. Is that a thing? I don't think I've ever seen an anchovy. Let me know.
I think you can keep it that way. I feel like that's okay. I have Scandinavian family who eat them and bring them when they vacation and then leave them, and then they sit there until that Scandinavian family comes back to visit again. Because no one needs pickled salted fish. It's not a good thing.
I agree. So Paulo Nelson, he says, "Hey Christian, I forgot to mention yesterday that I tried Smart Sweets. We got thank you, Colin Bunce, for becoming a member here on YouTube. Much appreciated. I love Bunce. Remember from Fantastic Mr. Fox? What's it? Bunsen Bean, something Bunsen Bean. Remember the 3 guys that ran all the different farms? Did you see that Fantastic Mr. Fox?
What? No, I did not. Sorry. I'm gonna lie. I got distracted by the chat and all the many questions.
It's a great name. Great name. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Colin Bunce and Bean. Because I forgot to mention yesterday that I tried Smart Sweet Swedish Fish, and they were good. Not as good as the real ones, but I'd eat again. Have you ever had Smart Sweets? They're
solid.
They're very good. They're low sugar, healthy Swedish fish. And everybody makes fun of me for having healthy options to bad, quote unquote, bad food. And thank you Paulo Nelson for the support, for the show, for being an ally to Healthy Candy.
Yeah, no, I mean, healthy candy is good. The nonsense that you sometimes eat is definitely bad food. I remember like the weird flavor square packet things that you were going with when we were on tour. No, I'm good. I'm good on that.
The flavor square. What was that?
I don't know. You had something that was like just pure, like, I don't know, it was like a protein bar or something that had no flavor. I don't know. It was like a gel capsule. You're from the future. You don't eat nutrition. I don't know,
just some healthy MREs. Thank you.
Exactly.
My goodness. All right, everybody. So, yes, thanks for hanging out. This is it is Tuesday. So this is where we focus on American soccer. Our Taylor does not know this, but our show has, you know how we say shouts to us, right? You see it right here on the scarf. Our fans have coined this show as shouts to US. So that is what's going on today, where we focus on American soccer, and I'm glad we have an expert here with us. And we have to start today.
When are they coming?
We have to start with what's in the title, with what is in. You see the thumbnail, but Gareth Bale. The rumor is that he wants to take his golf talents to DC and play in Major League Soccer. But we have to discuss this. I don't really know. It's definitely a rumor, but you know, Wayne Rooney coming to MLS was a rumor at one point. How likely does this feel? And you are obviously in the you're closer to DC than I am, and you're more familiar with DC than I am. But but what DC? What how you know, from 1 to 10, how likely does this feel like it's actually going to happen?
I think you're correct with like the, you know, rumors can always be rumors, but sometimes they can be real. So I'm not going to say 0, but I'm going to put it on the lower side. I definitely agree with and enjoyed the tweet from Kim McCauley about this one. I think it got her blocked by Stephen Goff. That like this feels like it might just be a little bit of a screen because it also coincides with DC firing Hernán Losada. Yeah. And I did kind of feel like that maybe was a linked thing of like, yeah, we fired a manager that was going to be the future of the team, but we might get Gareth Bale. Like, focus on that, please. And just
jiggling keys. Like, hey, you don't need to worry about the man.
Look at the shiny thing. He's got a man bun. Please don't focus on everything else we're doing.
Don't look under the man bun. You don't want to see what's under there.
You really don't. You really don't. But like, I am a DC United fan. I'm a Manchester United fan. Like, they've got United in the title. They've got same color schemes. It feels like they're both stealing from the same playbook of things are going drastically wrong. Let's just link ourselves with some player that we're definitely not going to sign or won't be able to pull off in the end. But everybody will get excited and forget about all the other things we're doing that maybe are less exciting. And so I think Gareth Bale would be awesome in MLS. I think it would be really fun to see him enjoying playing soccer and not getting booed all the time, and I do think he still has the profile that
he doesn't get booed, okay? He gets whistled at by a very high pitched whistle that it might be a positive thing. I don't know the culture out in Madrid. I don't know what they mean by it, but I'm sure there's no way it can be distracting.
Yeah, no, they wanted to make sure he could see really well, so they set his car on fire. That's the best way to see it at night. We know these things.
I think is that the Real Madrid fans are catcalling Gareth Bale because he got that dump truck. That's all they're doing. They're whistling at him because they like what he looks like. That's all.
I mean, I think there's worse reasons to whistle. Why not? Let's make that happen. But yeah, I think it's time for him to move on, and I think MLS makes a lot of sense. I don't know if DC is the most logical place to land. And I think especially for a British person, we saw this when Wayne Rooney stepped off the plane and immediately turned bright red. Like DC humidity in the summer. I'm not sure that's what he's looking for.
Is he British or Welsh, right? Technically, what is British is Welsh or...
I think British is the catch-all, as I understand it, and you should definitely call people from the Republic of Ireland British. They love it and don't get it all angry about it. I don't know. Like, I'm coming from, on our show, we've got Ryan, who's an Englishman, and Graham, who's a Scot, and I think both of them are okay with being called British, but maybe Graham is more okay with it through gritted teeth than anything else.
Okay.
So that's my understanding, at least.
This comment here from Hercules Gomez, we're seeing it on the screen. He says, saying that Gareth Bale would be the best player in Major League Soccer by far. And I don't know how much to debate this, because ESPN FC is very good at they just putting it out there, and they love the engagement of of disingenuous questions. But it's difficult to say that, given that he is not. He's not really, obviously he doesn't play much at Real Madrid. It is what it is with the situation that he's in, but it doesn't feel that way, that he would be the best player by far, because I don't know where his heart is and how much, he seems like he loves playing for Wales and turns it on. But DC United is not Wales, and I don't know what the motivation is for him to play and to play well. Like, how excited would he be? I feel this way about any club that he would go to. I just don't know what the I don't know if it's the trauma of what his career at Real Madrid has been like. Does he have any left to give? Does he really want to be a superstar in any league in the world?
I think what I'm hearing you say is lie to him and just tell him that Wales plays in Major League Soccer.
Right.
Maybe RSL has kind of similar colors. I feel like they both wear the kind of reddish jersey.
Sure.
So just maybe tell him that. I like Colorado, Wales. I don't know. Maybe there's some similar, or not Colorado. Utah.
Do we have any Welsh players in MLS? Is there any other Welshmen?
That's a great question.
I'm
for
just
your
wondering
many
if
Welsh listeners.
I don't think so.
I see where Herc is coming from, though. I think because on the physical side, I'm assuming he still has a decent amount of pace, Gareth Bale, and he is so big and does have that dump truck, as you correctly pointed out, that he has the ability to beat people on his own, and he has the ability to run at defenders and make them uncomfortable and play on the break and get a ball in behind and run onto it and score. And I can see an argument for him being an individual threat and then technically good enough to be a team threat. And so maybe he does give you that sort of dual, I don't want to say threat again, but I'm going to, that dual approach. And so I could see an argument for him being one of the best players. I just think anytime you're appointing somebody that before they've played a game, MLS has many, many intricacies that we all know about that make it slightly more challenging.
And we saw the comments from Gonzalo Higuain about thinking he was just going to come here and play with a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's I thought I could eat ham while playing. Who knew that wasn't allowed?
And look at as soon as he he has a bit of an injury and misses. He hasn't. I think he hasn't started in 4 games for Inter Miami, and they win 4 in a row. Wow, interesting how that works out.
Yeah.
So that's why the comments from Fabian Herbers, when he said "F that guy" about Gonzalo Higuain, it feels like not only do you have to be a decent player, but you have to come in with a little bit of humility when you play in MLS. So you have to accept that maybe the guys that are passing you the ball are not gonna ping 80-yard diagonals at you, and that'll land right at your feet. So if a player doesn't come in with that mentality, which I think Wayne Rooney did, I think he truly came in with I understand what I'm getting myself into. I understand the talent of some of the other players. You heard all the stories about him paying for every meal for a lot of the players, the kindness he showed to all his teammates. That's the kind of guys that we need if they're going to succeed in MLS.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always wondered if maybe Wayne Rooney got a little bit of guidance from David Beckham, because that was a thing that Beckham, when he first came in, I think was kind of throwing that money around a little bit to try to make people feel like he wasn't such a prima donna, but at the same time, he got such special treatment. I do wonder if there was a little bit of insight provided by Beckham as to how to conduct yourself. That said, Rooney, I think, still got drunk at Dulles, so that felt appropriately American too.
There's a balance.
You gotta find it, right? Exactly. The other thing I do wonder, though, to your point, is we know, I think South American clubs, and especially young South American players and agents, are starting to see MLS or already see MLS as a very good launching pad or potential launch pad for another move. You kind of get established and then you can move on. And obviously academies, FC Dallas, chief amongst them, have shown that young talent is coming through. But I wonder if on the opposite side, there is still an idea in most European media that MLS is just backwards. And I think it's harder to watch just from a a time constraint standpoint. If you're going to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch, you can. But I think there's so many other things going on when you've got soccer going that I don't think you get as much coverage or as much interest. And so I think some of those perceptions of it being, if not wholly a retirement league at this point, but as a, yeah, you go in, you're an international player, you're going to be fine. You don't have to work that hard. The level's not there. Maybe some of that is still true. But as you said with Higuain, I think he had this idea of he's going to go to Miami, which again, heat, humidity,
Right.
think about these things, people. But like, it's not where it used to be. And I think players that come in expecting it to be this sort of cake league that you can just have your say and play whenever you want to, it doesn't really work that way anymore.
Right.
And I think people kind of get hit with that pretty quickly. Steven Gerrard would be one of those players in my mind.
Right. There's a bunch of people in the chat saying about Welsh players. So there's no current Welsh players in the MLS. Colo Blanco mentioned that. That's right. Chris Matassa said one Welsh player in USL Championship side, Atlanta United 2, and one USL League 2 side, North Carolina Fusion. Okay, so the Welsh, at least, Gareth will have a couple people, countrymen to connect with. So Dennis Higgins said, I was so wrong about Rooney. You and Sebastian Salazar, remember the rant he went on about how this is a waste of money. He's old, retirement this, retiring that. And then, boom. I mean, Wayne Rooney has some of the greatest moments in DC United history. Look, we can't deny that. That long ball to Lucho Acosta. Bro, that will live in not infamy, in just for me. It would just live in
lives in funny. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I think I coined that.
I guess that's just fame. That's just fame. It's
No.
Infamy is fame. There we go.
Okay, so since we're talking about DC United, we do have to talk about head coach Hernán Losada, who got removed from his post for, I don't know, body shaming and bullying. Right. I don't know what happened.
A mean girl? Yeah.
Because
Regina George loves the coach.
Because when he first got there, a lot of people were excited. The end of Ben Olsen, not his life, but the end of his tenure at DC United. He'd been there for a long time. There seemed to be a lot of mediocrity when it came to DC United after, a club that was pretty much used to winning in early days of MLS. And not Losada. So this is a lot of fans were upset, and I think there's a couple DC United fans in the chat right now. A lot of fans were upset because I think they liked the way he played, and even though DC United weren't winning that much, they had just missed a playoff spot last season. I think pretty much it seemed like fans liked him. They liked the guy, but I don't know if you heard Julian Gressel's podcast, the ZZ Soccer Pod, him and Fabian Herbers. And I've never heard a player be so open and honest about, a coach getting fired, because he was being really straightforward about how the basically Hernán Losada did. I guess, is it similar to like Bielsa, where
the weigh-ins?
The weigh-ins, he did hydration checks, made sure, like body fat percentage, like he was just really, really meticulous about this stuff. And we've seen this stuff, it happens in pretty much all sports, but some coaches are a little bit more particular about it. And it can really cause a little bit of psychological damage, and on top of the physical damage of being so specific about these details. But from when you heard about him getting fired to then the details about why he got fired and why it probably didn't work out and why some players weren't big fans of it, what did you think of this, from before and after of how DC United is handling this and how they're going to go forward?
I will answer that question. I have one question for you because I haven't heard that podcast. Was Julian Gressel speaking candidly in a negative way, or was he just talking about the things that
positively? He said that Hernán Losada changed his life and the way he thought about fitness, and he lost weight and he was feeling better. But he admitted that other players on the team didn't really buy in completely. They weren't really fans of it. They felt like it was too much, and it led to some injuries as well. So not everybody was on board.
Yeah, you told me not to curse too early. Can I curse now?
You can curse.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. Like,
which part is bullshit?
that they fired him.
Okay.
Like, I think you knew what he was when he came in. He's a Bielsa disciple. Like, the Leeds All or Nothing documentary shows this exact thing. He does, like, you can see Luke Ayling be like, oh my God, I know I'm overweight. Like, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, it is a thing that is terrifying, I think, for players, but it's terrifying because those are the players that didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I think with the length of the MLS offseason, there are things that coaches do to try to make sure their players are going to take it seriously and stay in shape. And especially a person who's coming from that Bielsa school, they want complete control and they want all of the details gone over, and they want the players to have that same level of focus and dedication. And I mean, I personally would hate that. I think I would be the worst like type of player, because I would just like, just let me be me. Just let me be me, a very mediocre footballer.
What do you mean I can't have 2 cheeseburgers in the locker room? What are you, a cop?
I know what I look like. Come on now. Like, I'll take bacon off one. That's my compromise. But so like, I think DC knew exactly who they were getting, and I had concerns about him coming in because it wasn't, to my memory, it wasn't like they were like getting a guy who had been winning everything and they managed to snake him away. Like, I think he had been fired by his former club for similar reasons, or parted ways for similar reasons about his intensity. And so to me, that's like appointing Bielsa and then firing him when it's like, this guy's kind of intense. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, that's why you buy him. That's why you get him.
You had intensity right on the top of the resume. Yeah. I'm not.
Like, his resume is in all caps and 40-point font. What did you expect from this guy? And so like, and then DC, it's not like they're spending money. It's not like they're buying the DPs that he needs to be the team that he wants. They're buying players who are good. Like, I like Brad Smith. I think he's a really good soccer player. I think he was really important, almost underrated for Seattle for a couple of seasons there. But is he going to be the difference maker? Is he going to be the player who makes that squad like reach that next level at the same time as you're losing somebody like Kevin Paredes, who's such an important player for them and a potentially important player down the road? It seems like DC didn't really back him, didn't really help him, and then used excuses that I think they knew could resonate on social media of like, wow, what a lunatic. I can't believe he made these guys weigh in, and how abusive, and how, and I agree with what Pablo said, that it can have, Pablo Mar, that it can have effects and it can have psychological impact, and it should be something we talk about. But we should talk about that across all sport, because I think it's a thing that happens across all sport, is body shaming and berating players when they don't have a good performance and attacking them on social media. I think that's a thing that exists in a lot of different realms and should be considered. But to use it as a way to say like, there was a lot going on that people didn't know about, that feels disingenuous at best in my mind.
Yeah, it did feel like, when you hear about these details, the front office and Losada, they probably didn't get along, and there were probably a lot of complaints, and it was difficult. A nice co-brew, who's a DC United fan, said, we needed a culture change. He was it, and we didn't have the guts to stick with it. So that's an interesting thing. And you mentioned Pablo Mara. I have the tweet up right now, and I wanted to read this middle tweet here. It says, the idea that many athletes might develop eating disorders, lifelong issues with body image, etc., is not just unrealistic. I'm sorry, I know some of you will laugh at this, but it's true. People will be particularly dismissive of this point when it comes to male athletes. Because end quote there, right? And it makes me think about the who was it? Lindsey Horan, when she played in for the Reign, not the Reign, Olympic Lyon, and she had the coach that was critical of her weight and her body in general. And it is like a difficult subject to tackle, because obviously the mental health of athletes is also crucial and important. You don't want to destroy a player psychologically. So when you bring in a coach that has these, this philosophy, you take that risk of it. Could it be pushing players too hard? And especially with Bielsa, I think it's the reason why I think it works for as long as it works. Yeah. And then when it stops working, it looks like a clueless manager, because Leeds had so many injuries. Calvin Phillips out for so long. Key players missing led to them being in this kind of like relegation battle now. But when he first got there, he's beloved. Everybody's into it. Alexis and I have this conversation all the time where you bring in, manager shifts. Every time you change a manager, you're changing the culture of the team, right? Where you're like you need like the authoritarian for a little while, and then players get frustrated. Now they need, the substitute teacher that's really cool with you throwing paper planes in the class. Mm-hmm. And then when there's too many paper planes, now nobody's productive, and now you got to go back to the authoritarian. So that's kind of
that's a great. Like I appreciate yours, because I was trying to work out like a complicated food and you and I being roommates analogy, which I can still go with if we need to. But I think like ultimately so much of any relationship is just communication, be that a friendship, be that a marriage, be that a manager in a front office. I think it's about being able to communicate effectively and respond to what the other person is saying. And so if you're bringing in Losada, who is going to have these sort of extreme tactics, extreme approaches, you have to be able to say up front, we're going to want to have some conversations. If the players object to it, then we want to be able to incorporate what they're saying. And then you've got to be able to have that dialogue to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And if he says, nope, my way or the highway, then you can make that decision. But it feels to me, I will go with the roommate analogy. If you and I were living together, Christian, I think you do eat better than me. I see the way you look. I see the way I look. You could probably help me lose some pounds. And it would be like if you put me on like, no, we're eating this for breakfast, we're eating this for lunch, we're eating this for dinner. And after like a week of it, I having said nothing to you, was like, you know what, screw it, we're done. You're moving out. Like it's just no, we could also have a conversation about like, but maybe sometimes pizza, maybe sometimes hamburger with bacon. Like it just doesn't feel like there was much flexibility there, and it feels like he's been scapegoated. And then when it turns out that didn't go well, Gareth Bale's coming, everybody.
It's interesting because some people, I've seen comments about people saying that this is a reflection on the American player. Like the American player is too soft and can't handle this kind of discipline and regimen. And this is why we don't develop some of the best players in the world, which I don't think it has anything to do with being American or playing in the United States or whatever. It just feels like trying to justify why to keep Losada or get rid of him is there's nobody. It's not right or wrong. If it didn't work, it didn't work. The thing I didn't like was DC United, like the way they announced that he was gone wasn't by saying, thank you, Hernán Losada, blah, blah, blah. They did the assistant coach gets promoted, and also Hernán Losada is leaving, which is like, all right, bro, like I get you maybe didn't like him, but you don't need to disrespect him on the way out.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for a managerial shell game. Like, which one do you think is the manager? It might not be the one you think
just
is
musical chairs.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there's other decisions, and I'm sure, as with everything, there's always going to be nuance to it, and maybe there were other things that we don't know about. That's why I asked if Gressel was talking negatively about it, because if players all like uniformly did not like it, then I think it means that he wasn't willing to change, and that is a problem. But that isn't really what we've heard. I will say the American thing, I'm going to try to say this and not just have it be my American bias, but, grain of salt, I am American. And I love the U.S. men's national team of bygone eras and the current one, but of like past years, because they work, man. And that has always been such a hallmark of the U.S. And everything I have ever heard about young Americans and why club coaches or club directors scout American talent and bring over youngsters at a very young age is because American players tend to have baked into them this idea of you work for the team, you work as hard as you can, and you do what your coach asks you. I think American sports society, pretty much across any sports landscape in the U.S., is about listen to your coach is smart. We have however many million movies about how, wonderful coaches that inspired a generation.
Right.
I think that's baked into American athletes. And so coaches love young Americans who will come over and play whatever position they're asked and work really hard and improve. And it's why like Jordan Morris didn't get the attention after a certain point, is because even though he was like 22 at that point, he was older than I think some clubs wanted a player to be to develop. But I still think there's a huge idea of that American identity that I think is part and parcel of what makes U.S. soccer, or has made the national team, so good. So to then say Americans don't want to work hard, I don't really buy into that one, because I think ultimately if you're playing soccer, you're buying into working hard unless you're Gareth Bale, in which case you're buying into playing golf.
We have to work hard. We got no health insurance. We gotta
Exactly.
Yeah. That's how they motivate us, bro. you won't get your insulin.
Did you score that hat trick though? Well, then I guess somebody doesn't need their diabetes.
Okay, we live in a terrible country, everybody.
Man, it's a real big bummer that's like the dystopian future we're heading towards. Is like, you didn't make that save yesterday, so
Elon Musk will fix it all. Don't worry about it. Chanchalami United, thank you for the correction. Said Hernán was abused at PSG. She's currently at Olympic Lyon. So
it's easy to confuse them because PSG did that, and then the Lyon owner is the creepy one who hits on all the players.
Correct. Just par for the course for when it comes to soccer. Okay, Nick Red said, "What's all this soccer discussion today? Thought I was watching the Cooligans and would hear about Flaming Lions and Newark golf clubs." So there's a couple callbacks there. I don't know if you saw this clip of Alexis about an analogy about if 10 billion lions went up against the sun, who would win? It was a really bad. It was a very bad analogy that he thought made sense, but it was not. I think what was the analogy? I don't remember what point he was trying to make. It was about basically about two powerful forces, two powerful forces kind of coming together. But it was
unstoppable force, immovable object.
Correct. Sort of that's the kind of what he was trying to say. It was really, really bad. The Pepe Stadan said Argentine coaches and their weird coaching methods. Yeah. I don't know if it's all Argentina coaches. I mean, Bielsa, because of that tree, he's really imparted his wisdom to lots of other coaches, and especially
wisdom. Lunacy, whatever you want to go with. I mean, because there is totally that argument. I think somebody else in the comments said he ran the knees off of him, and it's true. That is, I think Jesse Marsh talked about that, about how they were overtrained, the team was mentally and physically fatigued, and a lot of what he's been doing is just sort of restoring a sense of camaraderie to the team. And I think a lot of it is based on the tactics of Bielsa, but that has long been the sort of hallmark of him, is he stays as long as he can before he burns everybody out and everybody gets kind of tired of it. But I don't think Bielsa can really modify. That doesn't seem like a thing. He's the one who interrupted a player's wedding to give a team talk for 10 minutes.
Is that real?
It's never. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He pulled them all out of a wedding, out of the reception, I believe, to go have a team talk ahead of a game that weekend. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, so that's the intensity he's going to have, and that's the intensity he brings. What I think happens sometimes is disciples, cough, cough, Gabriel Ince, take it to the even more extreme. It's this is a great analogy. It's like Al Qaeda and then ISIS. It's you can't keep going. It's too extreme. They were extreme enough. They weren't extreme enough for you. Ince was probably you're never allowed to sleep. You have to sleep on a treadmill while
right.
Or something. I think you could back it off a little bit, but I still think you know what you're getting, and he's a legend for a reason, even if that reason is because he left Lazio after a day and a half in charge, I think is how long he was there. Yeah.
Okay. Dennis Higgins, referring to our healthcare comment, he goes, "Healthcare is for earners." Just the mafia's running.
Coffee is for closers. Healthcare is for earners. We all know these things.
Joe Jimenez says, "Total Soccer Show." That's right. Taylor's here. Yeah. If anybody is new here and is not aware of Total Soccer Show, I mean, one of the greatest soccer podcasts ever created. It is a staple especially in the American soccer community. So go check out Total Soccer Show. Search for it wherever you get your podcasts. Anything? There's obviously plenty to talk about. Anything you're excited about or happening on TSS that you want to just mention real quick while I prep the next topic?
Honestly, it's just that I feel like on a personal level, for people who don't know the show, I started it with Daryl, who we did the tour with, and you're good friends with. I should note, I really think Daryl and I were very good friends. We spent a lot of time together. He loved Christian Polanco, and don't get me wrong, he loved Alexis, but I do think you all had a really good bond, and I think you're a person that he he just really enjoyed spending time with. And so we'd go to those conventions, and I wouldn't be surprised to see you two having conversations about nutrition or life or spirituality or whatever. And that, knowing him the way I did, that wasn't a thing that he did he would always talk to people. He was always very friendly, but I think he really valued you as a person. So to say that, I've taken us down a very serious road. To say that, like, I think a thing that has been really, really hard is in his passing. He passed away from colorectal cancer in late 2020. And so right when we had a kid, so that was my wife and I, so that was interesting.
Yeah, not with him. You don't have a kid with him.
Yeah, I felt the need to clarify that one. Like, yeah, Daryl and I wanted to commemorate him, so we did the twins procedure. Me, him, and Danny DeVito got together. Why did I go Schwarzenegger? Why did I have to go Danny DeVito? That's how low my self-esteem is. Anyway, so I think the thing that I'm really excited about is that it's a different show. It's never going to be the same show as me sitting in a room for 14 hours a day with my best friend, as I'm sure you can speak to. Like, it's what you have with Alexis. And so I think that the show has sort of the way it's evolved, because I wasn't sure it would be able to. Like I said, it's still a different show, but to have, I think, still the kind of friendship that's grown out of that one, to have Graham and Joe, who've never met in person and live in different countries in very different time zones. Yeah. I like that it feels increasingly like me talking about soccer with friends, as opposed to people who like are colleagues. And that level of chemistry, it's why I love talking to you. It's why, like, you sent me prep and I kind of like know the topics we're going to talk about, but we're like 40 minutes into this point, and we're just sort of talking about, I think we got through one or two. Like, so I think it just feels more like sitting and talking with friends about things that I would want to talk with friends about. And well, that's ultimately what I think is.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't want to cry in the middle of the show, but yeah, obviously
I do it.
we all miss Daryl, and but I do love that this new iteration of Total Soccer Show it's different without a doubt, but it's still a the chemistry is still there. And as you guys have been going on, there's obviously more people involved, but there's a real, it's becoming its own identity. And there's you can see the friendship and chemistry building as you go along. And you guys have all grown into, everybody's organically going into their roles. But this is what is like, as far as like how I feel about what my contribution to American soccer is, like, I look to you and I look to you and Daryl as inspirations, but the chemistry part is the most challenging part to find and to get, and and you clearly have that, maintain that, and are cultivating that with the new guys on board.
Yeah, and that, honestly, man, first of all, thank you, because it genuinely is. Maybe it sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. I feel like I've sworn a bunch, so I'm gonna try to back off there. It's not bullshit though, but like it when I talk to people about the show, I am still sort of surprised that people listen. Like, it's still like so I appreciate you saying all those nice things, but like, it's nice to come on here and be like, oh, like, new people who are listening to a podcast, what are y'all up to? Like, I don't know. We don't have a ton of interaction, I guess is what I'm saying. So I appreciate your saying that, but I really love listening to you and Alexis, because y'all just so clearly make each other laugh. And regardless of what you're talking about, it just, like, it's two buddies hanging out, having good conversations. Like, missing the first half of USA Mexico or Mexico USA.
Right.
Like, I was thinking about how bad of moods Daryl and I would have been in, and how just furious we both would have been. And I'm sure y'all weren't thrilled, but like, that's part of the story, and that's what you all end up talking about, and that makes it memorable. I think that's just, it's what makes y'all wonderful.
You know what? It made it a little bit better that Christian Pulisic missed that amazing chance right in front of goal. It made it a little. Shouts to Christian Pulisic for not ruining our trip completely and missing that great opportunity that would have been historic for U.S. soccer. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that would. I think that does sort of. If that had happened, though, it's the second chapter in the book of like things Alexis missed while indisposed, while he was supposed to be at games, because there's the bathroom story. There's USA Mexico. I'm sure there's other ones in there that he's found a way to miss out on.
I mean, look, it would have been pretty legendary if he took a poop at the Azteca. Didn't get the opportunity to do
I would be shocked if he didn't. Yeah. Maybe not during the game, but at some point.
I want to play this, because we were talking about the Seattle Sounders a moment ago, but the Seattle Sounders are playing in the CCL final, and they just released a promo video with part owner of the team, Marshawn Lynch. Obviously played for the Seattle Seahawks. Could have won them a second Super Bowl, but they decided to throw the ball and give up an interception when they were right at like the 1 yard line. It was okay, very memorable. But this is probably one of the best ever promos I've ever seen for an MLS team, especially obviously playing in the CCL final, but they're really leaning into it. This was incredible. So I want to play it for everybody if you haven't seen it. So here goes.
Hey, come on, Seattle. This gonna be a big fucking game. Champions League final. It's a big fucking stadium. We need to fill all these seats. Over there. Up there. We need motherfuckers up in there. You see
Hell
that?
yeah.
We could be the first MLS team to win this. Let's go, Seattle! We about to make history.
Wait for the kitty. Wait for the dog.
Big match. Tiny fucking dog, bro. Hey, come on, Seattle!
There it is. How great was that? Yo, Marshawn Lynch, I think creating one of the more memorable MLS promos. I mean, it feels a little bit like the CCL final feels like WrestleMania when it's Marshawn Lynch kind of doing stuff like this. And, he's swearing a whole bunch. The fact that they didn't bleep anything out, they were just like, yo, let this man be this man. Love it.
Right? Like, they clearly, have you seen that Netflix show where everything's improvised? I think Will Arnett is the main guy. It's like a detective show.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw the first episode, but I didn't realize it was improvised.
Yeah, and Marshawn Lynch does an episode, and I watched that one, and he's like he's fine, like he's clearly not like taking a bunch of improv lessons, but he's really clever and really sharp, and I love that they pretty clearly, in my mind at least, were just like, talk about whatever you want to talk about and do whatever you want, because that one of him kicking the ball, I'm pretty sure it's not a goal. I'm pretty sure he's just kicking a ball into the stands, because why not? I am curious if he was annoyed that he had to dance to Macklemore songs, but that's maybe a conversation for another day. Overall, I just love that promo.
No, it is pretty great. Look, I'm still a little sour over the fact. Yes, the Sounders are in the CCL finals because they beat my NYCFC, but I think it was well deserved.
We've had enough.
We've had enough victories.
Ronnie can only dance, but so many times. Like, we don't need to see him more naked.
But this is easily, one of the better uses, especially since a lot of MLS teams now have, kind of famous owners. Philadelphia Union, Kevin Durant is one of the owners, and he just got swept in the NBA playoffs yesterday. DC United has Yo Gotti, the rapper Yo Gotti. There's obviously Seattle Sounders have Ciara, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Macklemore.
Have you not named Atlanta yet?
Atlanta, yes, but no,
every rapper ever.
No. But Atlanta doesn't have an ownership group of these people. Right. Yeah, they obviously the connections to the city are incredible. But the fact that the Sounders would use one of their owners to this degree and really not like be tame about it. That's like the cool part, because like Atlanta United, they did a song. Did you ever see the rap song that or it wasn't, the team president, Darren Eales? He did a music video with Waka Flocka, and he was like in it or whatever. He didn't rap, but even that was like there was no swearing. It was like family friendly. But so for Marshawn Lynch to get to this point where we're like we know who he is. Nobody's gonna, even if somebody might be upset about it, it's gonna be like, yo, this is who he is. And do that. Like that's what makes me like happy that they went this far.
Yeah, I mean, when there goes the pup.
There's nutmeg,
yeah. I think like the dude who famously is here so he doesn't get fined, you're not going to be able to really tell him what to say. But I will forever remember, I'm going to censor it, but have you ever seen the clip of like, he had that show where it was him just like competing against like world-class athletes in whatever sport they play? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Marshawn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was like a Facebook show, no?
Yeah, something like that. It was like Marshawn tries it, or I'll try that, or something. And like he had like a world champion limbo dancer on, and then he like tried to do his version of that one. But I will forever remember the clip of them. It's him sitting around with like the writers and the producers, and they're talking about possible ideas. And one woman suggests, "What about if you played tennis against Serena Williams?" And he was like, "Nah, that ain't fair." And she was like, "Oh, why? Because she's 7 months pregnant." And he was just like, without skipping a beat, was just like, "Nah, because it's Serena Williams." And it's just like that right there is like, you can put Marshawn Lynch in anything and I will watch it, because that man is hilarious.
For real. No, that was awesome to see. So, look, best of luck. The Sounders are playing Pumas in the CCL final. When the game is, next week? The first game? May 4th, yes. And so the first one, it's 2 legs. It'll be, the first one is at home. And I think, I mentioned this before. I said, I think the Sounders, given especially how they're playing in CCL, I think they have a very, very strong chance at winning this. Watching them against NYCFC, I thought they were, it's quite remarkable how every single player is so good on the ball. They don't really make many mistakes. I was really praising them. I think they'll beat Pumas easily. But then they play against San Jose. And just it makes no sense.
I know you didn't mean it like that, but that's like,
I mean, San Jose, they're a mess. We all know that. They're giving up goals like crazy. They're scoring a whole bunch of goals, but they're giving up so many, and they end up losing this game 4-3. It makes absolutely no sense. Where look, I'm gonna just simply assume they're putting all their effort into CCL. So you understand that, but this game, there's no excuse to lose this game against San Jose.
No, I just love, man. I'm sorry. I just love that you talked about them as though it's like there's this person who's this like celebrated actor who's a humanitarian and she's done all this amazing work, and you're so amazed by her, and then you find out she's married to Andy Dick, and you're like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. Like, it's like, Seattle can be as good as they are, but they lost.
Bit of a red flag, I gotta say.
Ain't good. I mean, I think I agree with you that is troublesome, but I think Seattle, for the most part, have proven that they have the ability to raise their game when they need to, and I do think after those games against NYCFC, that maybe there's just an awareness of MLS regular season kind of doesn't matter until it matters in certain ways. And especially if you're Seattle, who have proven you can catch on late and be just fine. I think maybe there's very much a looking ahead to that final at the expense of those games against Miami and San Jose. So I wouldn't be surprised if after those results, they still find a way to put up, if not a bunch of goals, then at least a strong performance. That would be my hope, because I think it would be pretty cool to have an MLS team win it. As Marshawn Lynch made very clear. It's surreal, because in that second leg against NYCFC, Stephen Fry was a monster, bro. You could literally get nothing past him. And then he plays against San Jose. And he looks like he just looks pedestrian, bro. It was crazy. Yanni Mar said, "La comida está hecha." You might be hearing Helene making some food, so he's saying the food is ready. and he said, "Ven a comer." So basically saying, go and eat. Okay. Yeah. Do you need to take a break? Is it just gonna be me for like 20 minutes while you go hang out?
DJ31 said, "Tengo hambre." Okay, I think you know what that means. You know what that means?
No.
Hambre means hunger. So he said, "I'm hungry."
Is there another word for hungry? Or am I like, I
No.
don't want to say what word I thought it was, because I feel like is it not, is hungrioso? Is that not a thing?
No, that is not a thing.
Okay.
I
just made that up. All right, that's just me having a bad answer on my Spanish test. All right.
It sounds is the word for bear, so it sounds like you're saying hungry bear a little bit. So it's
maybe I am.
Kind of cute.
You don't know how I identify.
Okay. All right. Here's some other stuff that we have to discuss. I want to make sure we were talking about NYCFC. I want to make sure I play this clip, because I was at this game, NYCFC against Toronto FC at City Field. You love to see it. We'll play in any baseball stadium, bro. I could care less. All right. So this was pretty incredible, because this is just beautiful. Tati Castellanos.
Tavon Gray ahead for Tati Castellanos.
Boom. Nutmegs Michael Bradley. and does the Rabona to get the ball to Talles Magno. So this is so I was there. I was on the opposite goal. I saw the nutmeg. It was very, very clear. I was like, yes. This is, how people boo Michael Bradley at all the different MLS stadiums that he plays at, because people have not let it go. That's it. We're done booing Michael Bradley. We're done with this. Now we just need to.
I mean, now that he's officially deceased, we're done booing Michael Bradley?
Yeah, no, we're done. Now we just need to play this clip every single time he touches the ball, okay?
Honestly, the Meg is bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, it's the Rabona afterwards that is, first of all, just sort of, insultingly well done. But also, having been megged many times in my playing career at amateur level, you got to try to shake it off. And ideally, you want to have that moment where, yeah, you megged me, but you didn't get it on the other side, or I fouled you, and thus the play ended. But that, before Bradley can even turn, the ball is gone. And it's not just gone. It's gone with another bit of skill that's ridiculously good. You can see it in the way he pulls up and then sort of, trots back. I don't even care. It's fine. Yeah. I'm not mad. I'm not humiliated at all. My face isn't bright red. Oh, yeah. It's so insulting, man. But I do wonder, did your Rabona training with Tati Castellanos, do you think that informed his ability to pull that off so well?
I think the fact that we did, the Rabona masterclass, I can say I graduated from Tati Castellanos Rabona masterclass, and I think the fact that we held the class at all just was enough praise of him to be like, you know what, I really should show this tool from my arsenal a little bit more often, because I feel like I'm not using it enough. And this is why I love Tati Castellanos, is because he does Rabonas only when they're wildly unnecessary. Like here, he could have clearly used his left foot to give a nice switch or a nice pass to Talles Magno. But the fact that he did the Rabona and it was so precise.
Oh, it's so good.
Which, I mean, I can barely do a Rabona and get it to go any direction that I would want it to. But the fact that he did this, and it was such a easy ball, an easy pass. I mean, right to Talles' feet. The Rabona, if he just did the Rabona, you'd be like, yo, bro, this guy got some sauce. But the fact that he did just a nutmeg right before it, merely seconds before it, really is what made it more spectacular. I'm glad. Okay. The thing that would have sucked is if NYCFC lost, and they almost did lose this game, or at least draw it. But they won the game. But this is just one of the, one of those, this is going to, be on the highlights at the end of the year. This is just one of the greatest plays. And the fact that it happened to Michael Bradley, who is a defensive midfielder.
Is he, though?
Is he? Is he? Sort of, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been a debate for a while now. Have you ever done a Rabona without, having to think about it? Have you ever just tried it when you're just messing around without having to be all right, how do I do it? Like thinking it through?
No, I have never. I'm too nervous. And you're talking about in a game, right? Actually playing.
Yeah, or just messing around. Either one, yeah.
Messing around, I've done it, but not in an actual game. I have not. There were the times I've where I shocked myself. I remember playing this must have been 4 years ago. I got a long ball, and I'm so they send it forward, and I'm about to go towards the goal, but the ball took a strange bounce right in front of me, and it hit my shin, but I trapped the ball so perfectly in stride. It literally just complete accident, but it if this is my leg, it went, the ball bounced and it just stopped right in front of my foot, and I'm I just yeah, this is what I do, everybody. What are you talking about?
Yeah. What is it, Tuesday? That's what I do. Yeah. No, that's what you have to do in that moment, though, right? Because if you just turn guys, did you see it? You've lost all, it's no longer cool. So you've got to be able to pull it off in that moment. But I bet, the more you do it, because there is something to be said for, when you're in that flow state of I just megged Michael Bradley and now here's a Rabona for insult. You're just playing in the instinct phase at that point. And I feel that's when you can do those sorts of things. So I look forward to you Raboning
Nick-
Alexis Carreros.
Nick Red said, "Have you ever nutmeg? That is, I do that all the time. I literally.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I nutmeg my dog all the time. But this is a good question. And Joe Willock just said, should the chat just talk to each other today? Ha ha ha. We'll get to it. It's new for Taylor. It's all good. But I've seen this question posed. When you nutmeg a dog, does it count when you go in between the four legs, or do you have to go directly towards in between the dog's legs, in between both of their pairs of legs? How do you feel about it?
That's what I was genuinely gonna ask you that same question. We answered that as a listener question, and we agreed, I think, that dog, like, from the side, so like legs through, that counts as a meg, and then if you do it the other way, it's a double meg, and you get extra points for it. But also, like, if you're doing that at speed, I learned the hard way that when a dog steps on a soccer ball and steps the wrong way, they tear their ACL. Similar to humans. So don't do that. Don't do that. And you know what's not cheap? Repairing a dog's ACL, it turns out. So maybe avoid that if you can. Yeah. They don't have ACLs, but whatever their equivalent is.
Okay.
It's important, it turns out. The tendon that holds their entire leg together is apparently pivotal.
That's no pun intended, the pivotal.
There you go. Exactly. And I do, to go to the chat for a moment, though, I have so many random things to say. But I agree. I think Michael Bradley, I agree with you. We should stop booing him because of that moment with Castellanos, but also because he wasn't alone. There was a lot of people who were responsible for the U.S.'s failure to qualify, and I think he gets scapegoated a lot. He got scapegoated when they were in the World Cup against Portugal. I think he gets blamed for a lot of stuff in that game that he didn't deserve, and I think that's part of that is probably the relationship to his dad, and there always being those ideas of nepotism behind it. I think he's not the most electrifying figure. I don't know. Like, I remember there's that article Paul Tenorio wrote about, like, spending a day with Michael Bradley during the World Cup, and it was very it was very like, that was a good game. Like, I think it's not his style. So I think we should stop the booing, and it'd be nice if he got a game just to say thanks. I think the same goes for Josie Altidore, another player who, like, I think gets unfairly criticized, and certain parts of his career get unfairly remembered, because I think the time with Sunderland was certainly bad. It's not like he covered himself in glory, but that team was awful. Right. And if you have a striker getting no service and no support and nobody to combine with, they're not going to score, and it feels kind of unfair to blame him for that. It feels unfair to blame him and Michael Bradley for the failure to qualify in 2018. They had a part, but not all of it. I feel like we should all maybe be pointing our fingers at a certain coach named, I won't say his name, but it rhymes with Schmergen Flinsman. How about that?
I mean, you guys figure that out. I mean, it's going to be a tough one.
That's fair.
I remember speaking to, we interviewed Matt Beasler, and he was also one of the players that was there in Trinidad. And there is a lot of shame to missing out on that World Cup, and these guys express it, and it's almost like you think Michael Bradley's happy that he didn't qualify for the World Cup? Right. Like, why? How much? No. How much more booing and acknowledgement of this failure does he and everybody else on that team need? That's it. I mean, like, at some point we have to let it go. No,
I think so. Interesting one. Nick Red said they both deserve the criticism for trying to excuse their loss to Costa Rica at Red Bull Arena on the fans. I'm not saying they didn't. I just don't remember that. I remember that being a talking point about, like, the support wasn't there and it felt like an away game. And so, I think that, like, there was a lot of things said in that time period that I don't think the frustration with those two wasn't justified in the moment. I was mad at every single person on that team, including the coach, including U.S. Soccer, for a lot of decisions made there. And I think if, like, people were justified in that frustration, but I just think it's gone a little too far at this point to continue to hold it against them. Right. It's kind of where I am.
I like this question from Nick Harris. He says, what players should get a farewell game from that Trinidad game that most likely won't? Tim Howard?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think absolutely Tim Howard. I think Josie Altidore, and I think Michael Bradley. That's 3 games, so I don't know if you do all those at once. But I mean, Tim Howard, I think it was Tony Miola was talking about this last week, that, like, the U.S. has great goalkeepers right now, but we are not in the position we were when Tim Howard was there. And it was just like, no matter what, we've got that dude like who's going to lock it down and be the head of Homeland Security, I think was his title briefly on Wikipedia.
Or Secretary of Defense.
There it is. There it is. Thank you. That makes way more sense.
Tim Howard. Yes, he was patting everybody down with. He had the wand, making sure they didn't have any contraband. You know how it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a TSA agent. So, but I think Tim Howard, for everything he did for the national team, but also just for soccer in this country, to go to Manchester United, to have the success with Everton, to to deal with the disability with Tourette's. Like, I think there's a ton of reasons why we should all remember how awesome he was. His love of hardcore metal. He had a metal attic in his house in England. I remember that one where it was
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had like an attic where he would just go and listen to like metal records from the 80s, I'm guessing.
Slayer and Slipknot.
Yeah, I think he had a Slayer poster. That's not that surprising. I think he and Marcus Hahnemann, were like big into metal for some reason.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't need to be part of the farewell game. But I think Bradley, and then Josie, I love Josie Altidore. As a player and as a dude, like I remember when I was first covering the U.S., one of my first games I got a credential to was a friendly against Turkey before the 2010 World Cup. And I think it was then that maybe it was right after that one that he was in Turkey. And I remember speaking to, I would just try to get his attention and said something to him in Turkish. And he turned around and came back and was like, yo, you Turkish? And I was like, no. But then we ended up talking about his time in Turkey and about how where he could watch Champions League games was a big thing, because he had tweeted that he didn't understand how Turkey worked and the supermarket had the games on. So he had gone to the supermarket and was watching with the supermarket staff. So we went over where he could watch games, but it was just the most it's
amazing.
I just remember this whole time being like, I cannot be supposed to be here. There is no chance that I'm supposed to be having this conversation. I know who I am, and I know who you are. And you know who you are. You have no idea who I am.
Yo, Taylor, you want to come watch the Champions League final at Whole Foods? It's a great spot.
Let's do it, Josie Altidore. That feels like a sitcom right there. Let's make that happen.
Incredible. Yanni Mar said, will Tim Howard work in the Berhalter system? I don't know. I don't see why not. I mean, I personally feel like some of the goalkeeper stuff gets overblown. Obviously it's super important, but Zach Steffen is famed for his distribution until he's not, and Matt Turner is famed for his shot stopping, which I guess hasn't been too problematic of yet. But I think, especially at international level, I feel like it's kind of goalkeepers are goalkeepers. Fundamentally, it's about keeping the ball out of the net, and then it's about helping with distribution. I think that ends up being a lot more important at club level. So I don't see there being a huge gap between those two, and I don't see Tim Howard standing out in the wrong way. So yeah, I think in his prime, Tim Howard probably starts for Greg Berhalter. That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that too.
Tim Howard, Assistant Secretary of Housing and Development. That's outstanding, Joe Whitlock.
It's a good role, and your family will be proud. Okay. DJ31 said, "It's a shame my little cousins know who Bradley and them are before I even force football to them." So that's it. It's interesting. They've become infamous. These guys, but that comes with the territory. Look, they had one of the biggest disappointments and failures in U.S. soccer history, and they gotta hold on to that L. I mean, of course they provided incredible moments, and I think that should be acknowledged and applauded. But at some point we're gonna have to get over it and not simply just hate these guys. Okay. All right. So I wanna play this. Back to MLS. This is Sporting Kansas City just played against Columbus Crew this weekend. I don't remember the result of that game.
You don't need to, because it's about this moment. That's important.
Was it 0-0? It might have been 0-0. I don't remember. Anyway, but this is pretty incredible. Somebody tweeted this. Who tweeted this? MLS Gone Wild. So shouts to them because this is where I first saw it. But this is. Peter Vermes, is it going to be blocked by you? Oh, no, here it is. You can see Peter Vermes at the bottom of the screen. Coach, he's upset about something. He wants them to move the ball forward. They're not. He spins and boom, and collapses. He falls on the ground. So he's telling him, get the ball forward and telling him to pass it, send that long ball, and boom, he's up. This is pretty hilarious. I've never really seen anything. Wow. It's pretty incredible. He's this upset with his team I said that he did a short Yukon. I don't know if you can tell. That's what it looked like to me.
Is that how you're supposed to say what that guy says? Because
It's short Ryuken. Short Ryuken is how it's
I thought it was. We're talking about Street Fighter,
Street
right?
Fighter, correct? Yeah.
Because sometimes my daughter will say something that sounds the approximation of like Hadouken, and I'm like, are you Ryu or Ken reincarnated?
How do you?
That'd be cool. I take that one.
Who's letting you play this game?
Right?
But easily one of my favorite footballing moments. It's up there with like the Louis Van Gaal falling on the ground in front of the referee. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously this one was not intentional.
So can you go back to it for a moment?
Of course.
I think I have an idea what happens. Less so with the fall, but I think it's in Denbe, I think, is the left back, and I think that's who he's screaming at to make this run forward. And he makes it late, and then he stops, and that's when Vermes gets really pissed. So he starts the run, then he stops, and that's when Vermes throws his hands up. So I think that's what he's mad about. And what I'm choosing to believe is that Peter Vermes is such a method actor,
right?
That he's like, I have to show how your run broke down this whole play. You ruined everything. I'm falling over. That's how much you've stopped this move.
But
I'm furious.
You look at why doesn't he set the foot that he's spinning with? He must the inertia that his arm uses it doesn't allow, like his right leg is like not functioning anymore. It's really it looks like something like he's drunk or something happened.
I mean, my first thought was like, is Peter Vermes having a few at halftime, like just making this more interesting? It is also as you get older, I guess. There are those moments when you're like, oh, I just make that noise when I stand up now. Didn't know that happened. And I do wonder if maybe like a younger, fitter Peter Vermes in his prime playing days could spin a 720. But nowadays, maybe the feet don't quite land where he thought they were going to.
Also, now that I think about it, doesn't Peter Vermes look a little bit like Guile from Street Fighter?
The wall of hair.
The hair, yeah.
Yeah. He frequently wears a green tank top and throws the sonic boom. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that far-fetched.
Now I'm just thinking of mean stuff. Just like Rafa Benitez is E Honda, like we know that.
I mean, we see Peter here. We see Gal. It's not that far apart. Okay.
Can you pull up a photo of Pep Guardiola and Dalsim? I think that's the one who was the yoga warrior. Didn't know that was a thing. They were ahead of their time. But they're both bald.
Okay.
There's a calm intensity to them both.
Right.
I feel like Pep Guardiola can stretch his limbs as he needs to.
Right. And they both spit flames. You know what I'm talking about, okay?
It checks out. Now I feel like we need to make this video game happen. I'm into it.
Okay.
Did I ever tell you? I'm going to keep this.
Go for it.
Sorry. Did I ever tell you reminded me of this when you had your Rabona masterclass?
Mm-hmm.
But did I ever tell you about my greatest idea that we started to put into place and then just never had the time for, but it was adult soccer camp? I am still obsessed with this idea, and I think it would be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, they somebody does this. I think it might.
Thieves. It's still my idea.
I think it might be Kansas City. It might be Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, that's the way to. All right.
And I think they do adult soccer camps, and it's.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that is like frustrating, and I think I saw this maybe a couple weeks ago. But the photo that they use to promote their adult soccer camp is like almost looks like an insult to the adults playing. Like the guy is like he's clearly an adult and not in the most soccer of shapes. But so it feels like it's like, come on,
Peter Vermes issues is what we're talking about here. Yeah,
come on, play adult soccer camp with us as we bully you, okay? You know?
Yeah, see, that's the line. See, mine would be like you play with ex-pros, but then there's like a beer truck there, so you're having beers, you're having tacos afterwards. You go watch a game at night, so you're hanging out watching games with ex-pros, and they're talking to you about their stories and all that. Could be a whole big thing, but now that it already exists, I'm furious, and we can move on to other topics.
Okay, a couple other things before we wrap up. Oh, Nick Harris just said Taylor wants his royalty check. Nick Red said the Red Bulls used to do that. Okay, I'm sure it should be a more normal thing because it's probably a really good thing, you know, because you have like youth soccer camps and to get like kids aware of aware of the club or maybe identify talent that could play in an academy or something like that. But this is fun too. Like when we went to Germany and played in like the media game, it's a great it's like a great community thing. It's otherwise you probably wouldn't have met these people or had the opportunity to do something like that. I'm like a huge fan of it.
It's always fun because they get a little intense, the media games. There's always either I want to prove that I am justified in talking about this sport, or for some reason, inevitably, somebody shows up that has no business being there. Twice in my experience, it's been Stu Holden showing up after everyone had played for an hour. And it turns out he's really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah. And everybody elevates their game as a result.
It is
not my favorite thing.
It is when you see the chasm in difference from, just somebody who enjoys playing soccer to a professional, you're like, really? Wow. Like I saw this clip with Andre Iguodala, who plays for the Golden State Warriors, and he was playing basketball with his son, and he was playing, taking a bunch of shots, and he was just not missing any shot, and his son was just like, he's like, Dad, you're good. Why are you so good? And because he doesn't play that way.
Basketball in our backyard because I built us a court. Yeah, I'm pretty good, kid.
And basically, he explained to him, he's like, yeah, I'm in the NBA. This is how it works. But like when I play for my team, there's even people better than me that I can't do what they do. So my role on the team is not taking every single shot and making every single shot. And like this is how. So the level from just a casual player to somebody who's a professional to then who is a superstar, even the levels go even higher than that.
Man, I never thought about that because you're totally right. Like you're totally right, but your kid also like if you're a dude who's playing with Steph Curry, your kid is probably nudging you like, why can't you do that?
Right.
Why does he get to shoot all the shots? What's that about? It's just you can see it.
Should he be my dad? Because what I'm seeing from what you're doing doesn't really make me want to be your son. So
yeah, this is why I'm just not gonna let my daughter listen to soccer podcasts, and then we're fine.
I love this.
My only performance metric.
Jeremiah Lack said, "Adult soccer camp, dad's making friends." That is 100% what it is.
Hey, it gets harder when you're older. It gets harder to make friends that you don't have to have strange conversations.
Pepes the Don said, I want to be Wesley Sneijder when I grow up. Have you seen pictures of Wesley Sneijder recently?
No.
Oh, boy.
What happened?
No shame in his game. But when all I'm saying, he wouldn't work well.
Should there be? Should there be shame?
He wouldn't work well under Hernán Losada coaching staff. That's all I'm saying. He's gained quite a bit of weight, and people are kind of mocking him a little bit for it. But what are you gonna do? You retire. I can't find a photo of it right now.
I hate this, but like that's one of those dudes. Like it was him, it was Gaetan, and there was one other player that was every single transfer window linked to Manchester United, and it never happened, but every single window Wesley Sneijder was linked with Manchester United for a period of time. And it makes me sad that now, that feels like the Wesley Sneijder that would play for Manchester United these days. That's about the effort that's required to play in that midfield. Sure, get in there. It's all
good. He's a thick boy. Let him live his life. He's contributed enough to the game. How much do we need to hold them for that standard forever? Does it need to, be just cut up and ripped for the rest of his life? Let him live. He's drinking a Coca-Cola or like a rum and Coke or something. All good.
Assuming he doesn't, but it really looks like he has daddy tattooed on his arm. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping his wife has a name that's similar to daddy. I don't know.
I can't see that. Where do you see that? On the right side? On his left arm?
Left forearm is what it looks like.
Oh, I can't tell. I don't think that's what it is.
He's been married to Yolanthi, so that is not the name. Jeffrey? That could be Jeffrey tattooed on his arm.
Okay.
Right there in the...
Chanchada United said, is this the advert for adult soccer? This kind of is. It's just kind of the photos that they use.
I mean, you know what? It kind of is, because what I'm advocating for is you go out, you play with some ex-pros, then you have drinks in that evening, and you watch some games, and you hang out. Yeah, that feels like the kind of the before and after.
It's a lovely afternoon.
There's more tabs. You need more tabs open, Polanco, is what as I look at your thing we got going on.
I'm getting the stuff ready. So how about this? Okay, so let's move on to the next subject because we have to talk about the UEFA Women's Champions League. Barcelona played against Wolfsburg at Camp Nou. Is it Camp Nou or Camp Nou? I never know how to say it exactly.
It's one of those. And sometimes it's new camp. Sometimes new comes before camp. It gets very confusing.
Because of the Catalan or whatever. But 91,648 people at this match. It's the most attended women's soccer match. And I wanted to talk about this because obviously this is an incredible number and quite a record. And we've seen this. La Liga has been pretty incredible. We see this with like Atletico Madrid. There's a couple teams that are really, really getting some strong support. But the reason I bring this up, even though it's European based, and this is the American Soccer Show, is that people have been saying that this is that Barcelona is now like, basically, if you had Barcelona play against the U.S. women's national team, that Barcelona would dominate them and they would win. And Barcelona in La Liga, in the women's league, they are absolutely dominant. Apologies for it. You're going to be hearing a fire alarm. But should I feel like I should. There's no way for me to get through the show without it not being distracting. So I'll play a different horn because I have this on deck. It should play in a second. It's not playing.
Are you telling me, or are you telling yourself as you panic?
I hit the button, but it's not loading.
Do you ever listen to Comedy Bang Bang, that podcast?
I haven't listened to it in a while.
Before, like way back when they were in their old studio.
There it is. Apologies, everybody.
They didn't have it soundproofed, and so whenever a plane would fly over, he would play the plane break song, which was just him saying "taking a plane break," I think, over and over again. So you could just do that. You could just have background songs that you play when things hain. I like that. The dog walks by.
Jess Howen said, "Did Helene burn something?" And then Nick Red said, "Are they coming for you, Christian?" Christian's lunch is birthing from Chanchala. Yeah, I live in a place where they have, instead of having just a regular fire trucks leave the fire station, they have the whole town has a fire alarm, which is pretty surreal and very annoying. So what was I saying? Oh, Barcelona. They're saying that they would beat the U.S. women's national team. But the issue here, La Liga, the level of play is not as high as like NWSL. So they absolutely dominate. They pretty much they dominate their league, but they're also very dominant in Champions League. And I don't know if you've seen any of these games, but Barcelona, I mean, they look like Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, Barcelona. Their style of play is so not even similar to the men's game now, but the men's game then. They are just so much better than some of the other teams in La Liga. And I think it says more about La Liga than it does about how good Barcelona are, even though they are very good. Because their goal differentials like 112, like last season. I don't know if you saw this. They're too good. But this idea that the Europeans, especially a team like Barcelona, are catching up to the U.S. women's national team. What do you think about that narrative?
I mean, I'm not trying to be like stick in the mud, but isn't that a little bit like because Man City might win the title being like, Man City are catching up to Brazil better watch out? Like, to me, it's two different things. I get the idea behind it is that Europe is catching up to the U.S. women's national team, and that is factual. That is definitely the case. I think NWSL should be really, really worried. I don't know if the U.S. should be quite yet, but I think NWSL has to look at, I mean, what were the stories about NWSL last year? It's not the players' fault, but like we know what the dominant headlines were, and it was not positive stuff. And if you are a player who's contemplating your next move, I think NWSL has a little bit of work to do to kind of restore like the league's good name a little bit and to make sure that they're doing enough to protect the players. And again, that's not a shot at the players. It's not a shot at the people the fans even. But I think the league should definitely be worried because it has long been the case that women's soccer is wildly underfunded. And what I have always believed is that U.S. soccer, because of Title IX, because of other like policy initiatives, has just put more money into the women's game than other federations, and it's given the US a huge head start. But it does not take an insane amount of money to build a very good team in women's soccer. And that's not a shot at the league. It's a shot at the people who haven't been doing that yet. It's why Lyon have been so good for so long and why PSG are able to balance them now. It's you put a little bit of money into it. You're paying players in ways that they wouldn't otherwise be able to be paid to make that money.
Yeah.
And they're going to go there. And that's what's going to keep happening. And now you've got 90,000 people showing up for games. I think it's a necessary thing because we're on our NWSL has been around for a while, don't get me wrong, but that's what the third, fourth professional women's league in this country. And there was a time when it was like, is there ever going to be one that can stick around? And it feels like now we're moving towards like, yeah, there's going to be a bunch and Europe is going to be really good and the Champions League is going to be super strong. And I think NWSL probably is pretty nervous about that one. And maybe that will require them to start spending a little bit more and kind of keeping some of that cachet. I hope it's not their solution isn't just make it even harder for Americans to go play abroad, which is a thing that I think they've maybe done a little bit in the past. Yeah. And I hope they don't do this time because it then hampers development. And I think that's a thing that's sorely needed. I do wonder, sorry to go really long with this one. I genuinely don't know. And I now want to do some research to find out if the Barcelona, like on the women's academy side, first of all, if they have a women's academy, again, I apologize for not knowing.
They do.
But if they do, is it the La Masia thing of we're playing the same style, everybody learns how to play the way we want to play, and so we're bringing through these players who are steeped in that tradition, and that's why they look the way you would expect a Barcelona team to look. That would also make me very, very nervous if I were an NWSL team, because having a really strong academy is a way to not have to spend a ton of money, but still have a really good team, and it doesn't seem like NWSL has done enough of either of those yet.
Yeah, so Alexis and I, we hosted, we were the in-stadium announcers at the at the ICC Futures. So it was basically boys and girls. It was like U14, U15, something like that. And clubs from all over the country and from a couple from Europe. PSG were there, Real Madrid were there, boys and girls. But Barcelona, boys and girls were there, and Barcelona ended up winning the women or the girls. They won their division. And so getting to see them play, and they played against an American, I think it was PDA, which is like the New Jersey-based academy. And Barcelona, even these girls that were like 13, 14 years old, I was watching them, I'm like, this is Barcelona. I can't comprehend how these young girls are playing the exact same way and have a very similar tactical or technical ability as you know, boys and even the girls 10 years older than them or whatever. They're just so incredibly accomplished, and it really didn't look like it had the old trope of like the Americans are more athletic and are playing harder, but they just couldn't control the ball as well as these kids. And you're sort of seeing that when it comes to whatever the tactical level of the game in women's La Liga has not gotten to every other club. Like Barcelona, Real Madrid. There's a couple that are Atletico, especially. They're there.
Wait, you're telling me La Liga is dominated by Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atleti to a lesser extent? No way! I cannot believe that.
It was really like pretty incredible. But I still think. So the theory I have here, you know, the league I watch the most, as far as, you know, I watch NWSL and then Women's Super League in England. I watch that from time to time on ATA football. I don't know if you know them. But I watch. There's something to me. What I get frustrated in NWSL matches, I kind of feel like I wish there were more goals, but I think there is a. But I think that sort of says why NWSL is a tougher league. I think it's just tougher to score in NWSL. I think the defenders are a bit better, and I think there's more parity between the teams. In Women's Super League, there's a couple really good teams, and then you've seen like Arsenal and Vivian Miedema, you know, could score like a hat trick every other game. And then, but I think if Meet 'em Up played in NWSL, I don't think there wouldn't be nearly results like that. So that's it's. Look, I still think the European leagues are a little bit weaker than NWSL. It would be, I think it's still good for the American player to like get a different experience playing in another country or playing in one of these other leagues, because I think the resources for them, it's similar to like how WNBA players, even though it like sucks that they have to do this, but they go play in Russia or whatever.
Yeah, well,
and that's a
bit of a problem. Yeah.
That's a big problem now.
Is she still in jail?
Yeah, Brittany Griner is still in jail in Russia, which is an absolute nightmare. But
like one THC cartridge, right? And then they charged her with like drug smuggling, and setting up a criminal empire or whatever.
So Chanchad Mina said, Grant just dropped an article. Otherwise, there's a bunch. Painting with a very broad brush. The USMNT of the past couple cycles have dominated the physically and psychologically, but cannot match the technical and tactical of current Europeans, which it seems odd that we can't get there from a technical level, given how good the team is. It's not like they can't be that far apart, in my opinion. I mean, we have the best team in the world. It can't be that difficult to get there.
I think honestly, my feeling is it's like the rise and fall of empires. Is you rise by having like new technology or an innovative approach, and that spreads. But then eventually, people figure out how to counteract that approach and develop their own, and then those people create their own empire. And it does seem like U.S. soccer, on the women's side for so long, has prioritized a lot of the same things that the men's side did. And I think to their own detriment on occasion. It's physicality. It's college soccer, which means heavy recruitment, which means I think they've changed the laws to allow this, but you had like middle schoolers committing to play for colleges. Like it was about sort of bringing through talent to make your team win now, but not necessarily develop players the way you need them to. And as we've already said, there was another comment in there about like somebody said that like funding women's soccer is a rounding error. Forgive me, I can't find that one in there right now. But again, I think that might have been Kim McCauley who talked about that, about how just the budgets of these teams are so limited that if you funded them and gave them a way to have an academy that built players to play a cohesive style of soccer, you're going to make better players. But that hasn't really been the case in the U.S. It just has been the case that nobody has been able to catch up yet because it's been so underfunded and not really cared about. And the FIFA president talks about how we need to have them wearing shorter shorts and is making sexist comments while handing out the Ballon d'Or. Like it doesn't really help grow the game. And I think that's changing. And again, I think if you're an NWSL executive, if you're some people at US Soccer, you're probably a little bit nervous about the way things are going. Because I do think there's going to come a time when the US is not, if not struggling to qualify for a World Cup, then it's less of an, okay, we're going to get to the World Cup, but how's the knockout round going to go? There will come a time when we're worried about the group stage, and maybe we're worried about qualification on top of that.
Right. It's only a matter of time. And that question was from Trish Murphy about the rounding error as well. Okay. So
thanks, Trish.
Speaking, I want to talk about the Challenge Cup a little bit because it is the semifinals of the Challenge Cup, which have already, there's been a lot of criticism about this already, but Jess Fishlock, we're looking at the article on Just Women's Sports from Claire Brennan about Jess Fishlock, who she's frustrated because the rain, they're playing their semifinal game against the Washington Spirit in the Challenge Cup, but they have to play the game away. They have to play, they're the top seed, and they have to play the game in Asegra Field. I don't know exactly where it is, near the DC area.
Loudon. It's about an hour away.
Okay. So she's obviously not happy with this. Her tweet says, congratulations on being top seed and make it through the semifinal of the Challenge Cup. To celebrate, you now have an away game on the East Coast Sunday, followed by an away semifinal that you aren't meant to host on Wednesday on the West Coast. Lucky you. So we saw this from Jess, the frustration. Also, Bethany Balser on the team. She mentioned there was another tweet with her talking about the final for the Challenge Cup. The time, I guess it's 1 p.m. Eastern time. which is 9 p.m. Or 10 a.m. Pacific. So it's just like it's generally pretty. It's
You went the other way.
You're right, or whatever. It's pretty absurd that would be. Yeah, she's frustrated with the scheduling, and there's a little bit of this disrespect. We saw this in the NWSL championship, where it was originally going to be in Portland, then it got moved to Louisville, and then the time difference helped the actual players. They didn't have to play the game at 9 a.m. or whatever, get up at 6 a.m. to play in a game so early. But this, I want to talk just about this setup of the Challenge Cup, because the Challenge Cup was created obviously during COVID. And it was in Utah. All the teams were in the bubble, and it was the first professional league to come back. And it was a monumental thing. It meant a lot, not just to women's sports, but sports in the country overall. But
it had the best Twitter accounts that were launched after it.
Right.
The play set behind it. I think the Sprinklers got their own Twitter account.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of good stuff.
So it was a lot of fun, I think, and the world really tuned in. It was very exciting. But Now, obviously, when they brought back the Challenge Cup, and now this time around, it's feeling a little. It's obviously it's a little bit messy with the schedule. Trish Murphy just mentioned it. Now, the whole dang schedule is a mess because the Challenge Cup overlaps the regular season, and then if you are a team that has a regular season game and you made it through farther to the Challenge Cup semifinals, they just reschedule your game. So there was no way this wasn't going to be a little bit hectic and a little bit complicated. But the fact that they did it this way, it kind of goes back to the point I was making about Bethany Balcer. Is like NWSL shooting themselves in the foot? Are they truly giving the players the respect that they deserve by creating a schedule like this? And there is like this balance of trying to get the most publicity with respecting the players, health and time and trying to make this like the most entertaining product that you can. But it does feel a little bit like muddled. Like I hate that NWSL always has to deal with these kind of like logistical
self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So I don't know, like how to feel about. I'm excited. To me, it kind of takes away a little bit from the significance of the Challenge Cup, because I don't know, should it be just a preseason thing that we like, whatever, who cares what the results are, or is it like an important tournament that we should really focus on? And I'm leaning towards making the Challenge Cup a little bit more reduced in its significance, and whether I think people will side, or they'll find whatever. Some people think like it's a trophy, they should play for it, but it shouldn't be. How many games is it? I believe it's six matches for each team, and then plus the semifinal and the final. I think this might be a little too much just for a preseason game. There's injuries, Lynn Williams out for the year, stuff like that. I think it should be a little bit reduced in some way.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And Crimson Pizza said it well. I couldn't tell if the season had already started or not, or if it was a preseason tournament. I remembered it from the pandemic, so it didn't exactly make sense that it was still going. And I do think like it confounded me. I talked to Lori Lindsay last week, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say the season has started or hasn't started yet. And like, that's an interview thing. It doesn't matter, but it speaks to the larger thing of like, I don't think anybody really feels like they know. There was another comment about, can we just make Meg Linehan the schedules are? I don't think Meg wants that job, but I think like even Meg doesn't know how these things work or when things are supposed to happen. And that, for your leading reporter to not fully know what is happening and when, and I'm saying Meg does now, certainly, but there are definitely times when like there's the shirt, Meg, when is the schedule dropping? Yeah. Like I think for so long, NWSL has existed on scarcity brain and the idea of just like, if you're lucky to play professional soccer as a woman, then you're lucky enough. And that seems to have been the mentality for so long. And we're going to create these fly by night tournaments because we got to do something and there's nothing else going on. And now, like against the backdrop of 91,000 people watching women's soccer in Spain, I think NWSL has to look at this and has to change the way they think, because throwing in random tournaments that we're supposed to care about but not care about, but regular season matters, but there's only 8 teams and it doesn't, and now we're expanding and now it's better. Like, I don't think messaging is ever consistent and cohesive in a way that it needs to be, and especially needs to be now that other leagues are starting to take it seriously. And if NWSL wants to continue to have relevance, it can't be a thing where occasionally you have a team playing in the outfield of a baseball stadium that isn't big enough for regulations, which has happened previously.
Bro. Hey, that's a sensitive subject.
I know.
Do not.
I know. But I don't even mean it like that. Do you remember the one I'm talking about, where they had to play on a field that was like 40 yards
That was
wide?
in Boston. Yeah, I think they played at Fenway.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Look, it's just not a good look. And I think this highlights really the, and like most American soccer leagues, it's not, and this is no knock on anybody, but it's just regular people trying to do their best and trying to figure all this out and trying to figure out this landscape, whether it's MLS, whether it's USL, and any of the divisions in USL or NWSL. They're all just trying to figure it out. And you're going to it leads to some just L's and just bad optics. And the thing I applaud the players on is that they especially with everything that happened with Portland and North Carolina and the whole story with Riley and all that stuff, I think players have had it with like holding back, whether it's about something absolutely egregious and serious, and when it deals with assault and violence, to like, can just get the fucking schedule right. Like, it's just like the players, we're in the infancy of, we're in the infancy of a women's soccer league kind of thriving. And it really feels like NWSL can be the last, it can be the future, it can be the future women's soccer league for future generations. So, people have to fight for these basic standards. And look, the Challenge Cup is, I think, as with how exciting it was that first year, the Houston Dash won it, and we saw Christy Mewis with all the beers, and it was a lot of fun, and I think it was very, very meaningful. But I think it's getting to a point where we're asking a bit too much of the players.
For sure.
Yeah. My theory, my thought is, they play a home and away Challenge Cup, right? In all the groups. I think just split it. Do 1 year, one team will have if they play 6 games, or let's go to 3 or whatever, or 4, and play maybe 2 at home, 2 away, or do 1 home, 3 away, and then 1, whatever. Like, just make it. I just think it should be fewer games, and it may not be as balanced a schedule as far as playing home and away, but less games. Yeah. You still get a trophy. It's less risk on the players. There could be more turnover with the rosters, so you can actually have a preseason, and actually see what players are good or what players are in form or whatever. It's almost too serious of a tournament, if that makes any sense. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea. A couple people have pointed out of like making it the FA Cup or the US Open Cup and have it be a tournament that like goes over the whole season. That's not quite still the tournament format that you're talking about. But ultimately, Chritian, a point that you made that I think is really, really, really accurate is just that, like, for NWSL, a league that had so many stories last season about abuse and neglect and players not being treated right, and if not cover-ups, then willful ignorance and a willingness to look the other way. Like, if you are trying to tell me, look, we have learned our lesson, we are going to change the way they operate, things will be better. We still can't get the schedule right, though. Like, that's not the way to create confidence.
You're asking for too much.
I know, right? And like, and I firmly, to be pretentious for a moment, like, I firmly believe in the life philosophy of like, everyone is trying their best. Even if a person in that moment is being lazy or whatever, you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their day has been like. It's safest to assume that everyone is trying really, really hard. And I think, Chritian, your point is well taken, that like, certainly the players are trying really hard. The fans who care and support these teams are trying really, really hard. And it's not even to say that the front offices or the NWSL executives aren't trying really, really hard, but you can be trying really hard to make a car before the assembly line is a thing.
Right.
And then once the assembly line is a thing, if you're still like making each part by hand, like I'm working as hard as I can, the point is like, yeah, but you don't have to. You could do this, which would be way better.
Right.
And it just feels like there isn't that willingness to adapt and look at what else is happening and kind of pull your head out of the sand and see, oh, times are changing. We can't be so fly by night. It isn't just enough to be like, hey, you're lucky enough that we have a tournament at all. You're lucky enough that we have a league at all. I think it requires just a different way of thinking. And maybe that's already there. I'm not a hardcore NWSL fan who watches every single game. So I am definitely speaking from a position of ignorance, but that is my understanding of things as I've come to see it. And as I've heard it talked about, is just that there needs to be a shift in the way people think about women's soccer, or else it's going to be, I shouldn't say England, but like what happened on the men's side with England, where it's like, you win the World Cup, we're the ones who created this game, and then it falls off a cliff. Right. And that is not what I want to see. So
the NWSL regular season will be starting this weekend, April 29th.
If you say so.
It will. April 29th, Angel City is playing against North Carolina Courage. So it'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern time on big CBS. I think it's one of the 2 or 3 games that will be on CBS. Nationally televised game. The ratings have been good for these games. So the Challenge Cup semifinal and final will be the following week, Wednesday, and I think Saturday or Sunday would be the Challenge Cup final. So look, just more WOSO for all of us. But it'll be exciting. So all right, Taylor, that is the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining me, man. Let everybody know again where they can catch Total Soccer Show.
Sure. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are the Total Soccer Show. We also do another one called Soccer 101 that is meant to be an evergreen look at basic questions we get asked. For a while, it was maybe more like Soccer 303 or whatever it would be. Like, we got a little too into the weeds, and I think we're moving back towards basic questions like, what's the difference between a club manager and an international manager? But the goal, as always, is to answer that question for people who maybe don't know or are new to the sport, but simultaneously make it still appeal to people who've watched for their whole lives or for years, to talk about like, well, what are the differences? Can you have one who does both really well? Is there a divide? Who did it best? Who did it worst? Like, I think we always try to kind of find ways to make it applicable to a bunch of different people. So that's Soccer 101, Total Soccer Show, 5 days a week. We have Allocation Disorder on Fridays for now. That might get spin off. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. But we do Weekend Review on Monday, Americans in Action, however that ends up looking. A lot of detailed scouting reports on Americans on Tuesday. Usually there's a listener question episode in there at some point in the week, and those are always super fun because we get random questions like, how do you meg a dog, and what counts as a nutmeg with a dog, or what counts as a nutmeg with nutmeg? Yeah.
These are important questions. All right, Taylor, thank you so much for joining me, man. Everybody in the chat, thank you for welcoming Taylor Rockwell. Trish Murphy said, thanks, guys. Love this combo. Okay, that's it. It's official. Alexis has been ousted. He has.
That's fine. I mean, he's somewhere in Europe. We don't even know where he is, and that might be made up. Christian.
Exactly.
I don't know. We don't need it.
It's all an alibi for something else.
Look at the air bubbles in this crust. Did I do it? Did I do it right?
Nailed it.
Too much sauce.
Crimson Pizza said, you can also find Taylor in your dreams. Which is kind of nice.
Is that good?
Yeah,
is that like a nice thing, or is that
in your wet dreams? That's where I find them. Okay. Okay. Y'all the absolute best. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Check out Total Soccer Show. We'll be back next. Like I said, Alexis is away on vacation celebrating his birthday next week. So I'll have co-host next week as well. And join the Patreon, patreon.com/soccercooligans. We have there's a no cap recap coming soon, and then the full interview that we did with Molly McCann, the UFC fighter, who's I don't know if you saw that clip of her. She elbowed some lady in the face and completely took her out, but she's a huge Everton fan. So the full interview that we did when we did the documentary back at Goodison Park, that will be available this week. So that's all that stuff is coming soon. Patreon.com/soccercooligans. Thank you for everybody who has, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much. Leave a review. Shout out to everybody who subscribed on YouTube, because I think we've officially, I'm going to look at this right now, but if I'm not mistaken, we hit 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, everybody.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
We did it.
Oh no, the fire alarm. It's gone off. More food burning.
Yes, thank you for all the support here on YouTube. Ever since we've been here, we've been getting a lot of love, a lot of support. So yeah, tell your friends, like a video, leave a comment, do all the things you're supposed to do on YouTube, okay? Because like, subscribe. If you want us to dance on this damn channel, we'll do it, okay? We need the support. Okay. Jess Howen says, sounds a little stalkery.
That's for you.
I don't know what that's referring to, but it's all good.
Yeah, just you right then. Whatever you need us to do, I'll shine your shoes. Please.
Juan Vargas said, ¿Dónde está el thick papi? Which
En tus sueños.
that's right. Okay, I love a bilingual king in Taylor Rockwell. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Seriously appreciate it. Shout out to Taylor Rockwell. Go listen to Total Soccer Show.
You.
Y'all, the absolute best. All right, everybody. Take care. Peace.
Thank y'all. Thanks, Christian. Bye-bye, y'all.